Barron was walking down the hallway of the school, clutching a history textbook. He tried to ignore the whispers behind him, the laughter that kept flashing like sparks in the night. He was 10 years old, but he already understood. His name is not just a name, but a shadow that followed him everywhere. "Hey, Prince." A voice called from behind him. "Where's your crown?" "Lost it." Barron froze, but didn't turn around. He knew these boys. They always found a reason to laugh. At his height, at his last name, at his quiet nature. He could have answered, but he knew that every word he said in response would only add fuel to the fire. Sometimes he sat alone during lunch, looking at the patterns on the table, trying not to look at the neighboring rows, where the guys were talking, laughing, sharing cookies. At such moments, he felt like he was in an aquarium, as if everyone was looking at him, but no one dared to approach. One day, when he was returning from the library, someone purposely bumped his shoulder. The books fell out of his hands. The pages opened like the wings of a frightened bird. "Careful, Prince," one of the guys chuckled, casually kicking the textbook with his toe. Barron slowly knelt down, gathering up the books. His eyes stung, but he didn't let himself cry. "You're not alone," a voice suddenly said. He looked up. In front of him stood a girl with long brown hair and clear, kind eyes. She handed him the notebook. "I've seen you draw. It's amazing. Can you show me more?" Barron blinked, not immediately realizing that she was serious. For the first time in a long time, someone was looking at him not as someone's shadow, but simply as Barron. He took the notebook from her hands and smiled faintly. The next day, Barron came to school with a slight feeling of excitement. For the first time in a long time, he had a feeling that the day might turn out differently. He sat down at his desk and opened his notebook, looking thoughtfully at the sketches. He painted worlds that lived only in his head. Mysterious castles, ancient streets where every streetlight seemed animated, and ships sailing among the stars. "You made that up yourself, didn't you?" A quiet voice rang out. He raised his head. "That girl is Emily." She looked at his drawings with genuine interest. "Yes," he replied, a little embarrassed. "They're amazing. It's like something out of a real fairy tale." Barron looked away. He knew that her words were sincere, but somewhere inside there was still doubt. What if she just felt sorry for him? The change passed quickly. When the bell rang, Emily smiled. "If you ever want to tell me about them, I'd love to listen." Barron watched her walk away, and then he caught other people's eyes on him. Those boys were standing in the far corner of the classroom. They whispered to each other, looked at each other, and one of them grinned. "Look, our prince has found himself a princess." Barron felt his face heat up. He wanted to hide behind his thoughts again, shut himself off as always, but suddenly realized he didn't want to. In the evening, he thought about what had happened for a long time, about the words that stuck in his head, about how easily people judge each other, and that somewhere among the many ridicule and sidelong glances, there was at least one person who really saw him. The next day, Barron brought a new drawing to school. It showed a boy standing alone under the starry sky. But next to him is a glowing lantern, like a lighthouse in the dark. When Emily approached him, he hesitantly handed her the drawing. She smiled. "Is that you?" He nodded. "And the lantern?" Barron smiled back for the first time in a long time. "It's you. It's been a few weeks." Barron was getting more and more used to the fact that there was a man nearby who didn't care about his name, whose shadow stood behind him, and what rumors were circulating in the corridors. Emily listened to his stories, looked at the drawings, and sometimes even added something herself, small details, barely noticeable, but making the story come alive. But the more they talked, the angrier those who were used to seeing Barron as a target became. One day, when he returned from art classes, familiar figures were already standing near his locker. "You're getting too excited, Prince," one of the boys chuckled, clutching his notebook with drawings in his hands. Barron went cold. "Give it back." "Oh, so you can talk? Come on. Let's see." The guy abruptly tore open the page with one of his favorite drawings. Barron didn't even have time to move. Everything happened too fast. "Hey!" A voice suddenly called out. "Emily." She ran forward, grabbed the remaining pages, and clutched them to her chest. "Give it to him." The boys looked at each other. Then one of them laughed. Here comes the princess. Barron felt something flare up inside him. Anger, resentment, but most importantly, the feeling that he no longer wants to be silent. Leave her alone, he said softly. And if we don't? The guy leaned closer. Barron didn't answer. He walked over to Emily, carefully took the notebook from her, and looked at them again. You can tear up my drawings, he said calmly. But you can't take what's in my head away from me. There was silence in the hallway. The guy snorted, threw a torn sheet on the floor, and waved his hand. Well, that's fine. Do whatever you want. When they were gone, Barron slowly bent down, picked up a piece of paper, and ran his fingers along the torn line. Are you okay? Emily asked. He looked at her. Yes, he said firmly. Now it definitely is. That evening, he took out a blank sheet of paper and drew a new drawing. He was wearing the same boy under the starry sky. But now there was more than just a lantern next to him. Now there was a girl standing there, and they were holding hands. Time has passed. Barron was no longer avoiding glances, no longer hiding behind the pages of books. He realized that fear disappears when you find someone who sees you, who values you not for your name, not for your past, but for who you are. Emily had become that kind of person for him. Now they always sat together, in the classroom, in the library, in the courtyard of the school. They drew, shared stories, and laughed. And most importantly, they understood each other without words. But one day Emily didn't come to school. At first, Barron thought she was just sick. But when she wasn't there the next day, and the next, he started to worry. She's gone. Someone suddenly said at recess. What? Barron felt his stomach tighten. Well, yes. They say her parents moved to another city. He stared at the other man, unable to believe it. How is it? Why didn't she say anything? After school, he automatically went to the place in the courtyard where they always sat. Everything was in place, the tree, the bench, even the faint trace of their drawings in the sand. Everyone except her. Barron sat down, unfolded the notebook, and looked at the last page. There was a drawing of them, a boy and a girl under the starry sky. But now it seemed to him that the girl was becoming more and more transparent, as if she was being carried away somewhere far away every day. The wind stirred the pages, and Barron suddenly noticed a folded piece of paper that had not been there before. He unfolded it. It was a letter. Asterisk Barron. I'm really sorry that I didn't have time to tell you sooner. It all happened so fast. But know this. I will never forget our stories, your drawings, your worlds. You're special. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I'm sure we'll meet again one day. Emily. Asterisk. Barron stared at the paper for a long time, and then he carefully put it in his notebook, closing the pages, as if protecting her words from the wind. And at that moment he realized, she didn't disappear. She was there, in every drawing, in every memory, in every inspiration that led him on. He took out a pencil and began to draw. This time there was a road in the drawing. It's long, stretching over the horizon, and in the distance, among the stars, the barely noticeable silhouette of a girl waving her hand.